40 grams, that's the number most people over 60 have never heard. And it might be the most important number in your kitchen right now. 40 grams of protein per meal. That's what your muscles need after 60, just to hold on to themselves. Twice what they needed at 30. And the average frozen meal sitting in your freezer right now? 12 to 15 grams. 3 times a day, you eat a full plate and your muscles get half of what they're asking for. They are starving in a body that is not hungry. That pattern, high calories, low protein, mounting inflammation, is one of the most common things I saw in over 20 years of emergency medicine. People coming in with falls, with fractures, with legs that just gave out in a parking lot. Their labs told the same story over and over. Prediabetic, inflammatory markers up, protein status borderline. They were eating plenty, but not the right things. And the freezer was almost always part of the problem. That's what I want to talk about today. Not just which frozen foods to avoid. You can find that list anywhere. I want to explain what's actually happening inside your body after 60 when you eat certain frozen foods, why the damage is different now than it was at 40, and which 4 frozen foods can genuinely help protect the things that matter most: your muscle, your brain, your blood sugar, and your ability to stay independent in your own home. The people who do best are the ones who caught the pattern early, before the fall, before the fracture, before the diagnosis. And catching it starts with understanding what your freezer is actually doing to your body right now. So here's what I'm going to walk you through. 4 frozen foods that are quietly working against your body after 60, ranked from most damaging to least. Then 4 frozen foods that are doing exactly what your aging body needs, ranked by how much clinical value they deliver per dollar and per minute of effort. And I'll give you one number that ties the whole thing together. A number most people have never heard of, and once you understand it, you'll never look at a frozen meal the same way again. Let's start with that number, because it changes everything that follows. After about age 60, something shifts in how your muscles respond to protein. Researchers call it anabolic resistance. Here's what it means in plain English. When you're 25, eating about 20 grams of protein in a meal triggers a strong muscle-building signal. Your muscles hear the message, and they respond. But after 60, that same 20 grams barely registers. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adults over 60 may need 40 grams or more of protein per meal, twice what a younger person needs, just to get the same muscle-building response. Think of it like a lock that's gotten stiff over time. The key still works, but you need to push harder to turn it. 20 grams of protein is enough to turn the lock at 30. After 60, you need a bigger key. This matters enormously, because muscle mass after 60 isn't about how you look. It's about whether you can get out of a chair without help. Whether you can climb your own stairs, whether you can carry your own groceries, whether you can catch yourself before a fall. A review in Nutrition and Metabolism found that muscle mass declines roughly 3 to 8% per decade after 30, and the rate accelerates sharply after 60. By 80, you may have lost a third of the muscle you had at your peak. And here's the part that turns this from a biology lesson into an emergency. A 2025 review in the journal Biogerontology found that older adults who consumed ultra-processed foods more than once or twice a week had dramatically higher rates of sarcopenia. The odds ratio was striking, nearly 25 times the risk compared to those who ate them less frequently. That's not a small increase. That's the kind of number that stops you mid-sentence in a clinic. So the question isn't just, is this food healthy? The question is this food giving your muscles what they need right now at this stage of your life? And for most frozen convenience foods, the answer is no. Not even close. Here are the 4 worst. Number 1. Frozen fried foods. Chicken nuggets, fish sticks, French fries, mozzarella sticks. These are the ones I'd pull out of your freezer first, and here's why they sit at the top of this list. When food is fried at high temperatures and then frozen, it creates extremely high levels of compounds called advanced glycation end products, AGEs for short. Think of AGEs as a kind of biological rust. They accumulate in your tissues, and they trigger inflammation and oxidative stress wherever they land. Here's the part that worries me. A study of 684 older adults found that higher dietary AGE intake was directly associated with faster cognitive decline. Not just joint pain, not just stiffness, your brain. The foods that taste crispy and golden are quietly accelerating the aging of your nervous system. And your body's ability to clear these compounds weakens with age. At 30, your system handles them reasonably well. After 60, they accumulate faster than your body can process them. It's like running a filter that's getting more clogged every year while pouring more sediment through it. But here's the practical problem that ties back to that number I mentioned. A serving of frozen chicken nuggets gives you maybe 500 calories and 12 to 15 grams of protein. That is nowhere near the 40 grams your muscles need per meal. You're filling up on calories that create inflammation while starving the muscles that keep you on your feet. The reassuring thing is, this isn't about never eating anything fried again. It's about recognizing that making this a regular habit after 60 has a different cost than it did at 40. The damage is quieter, and it compounds. Number 2. Frozen pizza. I understand the appeal. You're tired, you don't feel like cooking, and a frozen pizza feels easy and satisfying. But let me show you what's happening underneath. A typical frozen pizza contains 700 to 1200 milligrams of sodium per serving. And nobody eats one serving. Most people eat half a pizza or more, which puts you at 1500 to 2000 milligrams in a single meal. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 2300 milligrams per day total, and ideally under 1500 for people managing blood pressure. After 60, your kidneys become less efficient at flushing excess sodium, so that sodium sits in your system longer, pulling water into your blood vessels, raising pressure against arterial walls that are already stiffer than they used to be. The AHA and ACC set the stage 1 hypertension threshold at 130/80, and a single frozen pizza can push you past it for hours. But here's the muscle problem again. 800 calories, 15 grams of protein. You needed 40. Half. That's what your muscles got. Your muscles got half of what they needed, and the rest of those calories went to storage, inflammation, and a blood sugar spike that your insulin-resistant cells struggle to manage. Number 3. Frozen breakfast pastries. Pop-Tarts, toaster strudels, frozen waffles loaded with syrup. Sugar wrapped in refined flour, marketed as breakfast. Here's why that's a problem after 60. When you start the morning with a massive blood sugar spike, it disrupts your hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, for the rest of the day. You crash by mid-morning. You reach for more carbohydrates. By evening, you've spent the whole day on a blood sugar roller coaster. Think of it like borrowing energy at very high interest. You get a quick burst, but you pay it back with fatigue, brain fog, and cravings. And after 60, your body's ability to regulate that cycle is already compromised. Insulin sensitivity declines with age, so the spikes hit harder and the crashes last longer. The visceral fat that accumulates from this pattern, the fat around your organs, not just under your skin, is metabolically active. It produces inflammatory signals constantly. And that inflammation doesn't just affect your joints. It affects your brain, your heart, and your blood vessels. The American Heart Association identifies visceral fat as an independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease. And waist circumference over 40 inches in men or 35 inches in women is a clinical marker your doctor should be tracking. I know some of you are thinking, I've been eating these for years and I'm fine. And maybe you are, right now. But this is exactly the kind of damage that builds quietly. The people I see in the ER who are struggling with blood sugar control, with falls, with medication burden, many of them were fine too, for a long time. The question is whether you want to catch this at the whisper stage or the scream stage. Number 4. Frozen desserts and ice cream. I'm not talking about a bowl of ice cream on your birthday. I'm talking about the nightly habit. The pint that becomes a companion because everything else hurts or feels difficult, and at least this still tastes good. I say this without judgment, because I understand it. But here's the clinical reality. After 60, your taste buds become less sensitive. You need more sweetness to get the same satisfaction. That creates a cycle. More sugar, more craving, more sugar. Commercial frozen desserts are designed to exploit exactly that cycle. They're engineered for maximum palatability, with minimal nutrition. One labeled serving of premium ice cream packs, 20 to 30 grams of sugar. But the real serving is usually 2 to 3 times that. And the gut disruption from the emulsifiers, stabilizers, and artificial ingredients in commercial frozen desserts makes it harder for your body to absorb the nutrients it does get from other meals. Now, here's where I need to say something that might surprise you. The problem is not freezing. Freezing is one of the best things that ever happened to nutrition. The problem is what was put into the package before it was frozen. Processed ingredients, inflammatory oils, refined flour, sugar, sodium. Those are the issue. The freezer is just the delivery system, which means your freezer can work for you just as easily as it's been working against you. And these next 4 foods are proof. Number 1 on the good list. Frozen wild-caught fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel. This is the single most important swap most people over 60 can make. Here's the reason. A serving of frozen wild-caught salmon gives you 25 to 30 grams of high-quality, complete protein. That's the kind your muscles can actually use. All the essential amino acids, easily digestible, without straining your kidneys the way some other protein sources can. You're already most of the way to that 40-gram threshold in one piece of fish. But the real story is the omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3s reduce inflammation. They protect cardiovascular function. And multiple studies have shown they support cognitive function after 60. The exact systems that the frozen fried foods on the worst list are quietly damaging. Here's something most people don't know. Flash frozen fish, caught and frozen within hours on the boat, is often more nutritious than the fresh fish sitting in the display case at your grocery store. That fresh fish may have been out of the water for a week or more. Nutrients degrade every day. The frozen piece locked those nutrients in at peak freshness. And it's easy. You don't even have to thaw it. Season frozen fish with herbs, lemon juice, and olive oil. Put it in the oven at 400 degrees, and add about 10 extra minutes to the cooking time. 20 minutes from freezer to plate. No planning, no spoilage risk, no wasted food. If you're on Medicare, here's a practical note. At your next annual wellness visit, which costs you nothing out of pocket, ask your doctor for your latest inflammatory markers and your albumin level. These will tell you whether your current diet is supporting or undermining your protein status and your inflammation levels. Most people never ask for these numbers. You should. Number 2. Frozen berries. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries. These are a quiet powerhouse that too many people overlook. Berries destined for the freezer are harvested fully ripe, the point where antioxidant levels peak, and frozen within hours of picking. Fresh berries, by contrast, are often picked early, so they survive shipping, and they lose nutrients sitting in trucks and on shelves. A study published in the Journal of Food Composition and Analysis found that after just 5 days of refrigerated storage, frozen produce was actually more nutritious than its fresh counterpart. Fresh green peas, for example, lost up to 51% of their vitamin C within the first 24 to 48 hours after harvesting. The frozen version kept almost everything. What makes berries especially valuable past 60 is their antioxidant density. These compounds combat the chronic low-grade inflammation that drives most age-related disease, including cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, arthritis, and even some cancers. Blueberries in particular have been studied extensively for their effect on memory and cognitive function in older adults. Add them to yogurt, stir them into oatmeal, blend them into a smoothie with protein powder. Because berries come packaged with fiber and water, their natural sugars enter your bloodstream gradually, nothing like the sharp spike you get from processed sweets. For anyone managing pre-diabetes or diabetes, that distinction is critical. Number 3. Frozen vegetables. Broccoli, spinach, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, mixed medleys. Here's where the myth really falls apart. Most people assume fresh vegetables are always superior. They're not. The research is clear on this. Frozen vegetables hold on to their vitamins, minerals, fiber, and protective plant compounds remarkably well, often matching or exceeding the nutrient levels of fresh produce that's been sitting in your fridge for 3 or 4 days. Cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, are rich in sulforaphane, which helps your liver and cells clear out toxins and damaged proteins. Those pathways slow down with age, noticeably. So getting this support from food matters more, not less, the older you get. Spinach and kale provide folate, essential for brain health and harder to absorb after 60. The nitrates in leafy greens support cardiovascular function and can improve energy levels. The key is buying single-ingredient bags. One word on the label: broccoli. Not broccoli with cheese sauce. No added sodium, no sauces, no preservatives. And don't overcook them. This matters. 3 to 5 minutes. That's it. Overcooked frozen vegetables taste like punishment. Properly cooked ones taste like food you'd actually choose. Roast them on a sheet pan with olive oil and garlic. 15 minutes at 425 and they come out crispy, not soggy. Toss a handful into soups, stews, or scrambled eggs. Keep 2 or 3 bags in rotation. 1 green, 1 mixed color, 1 cruciferous. And you'll cover your bases without thinking about it. I know some of you live in parts of the country where fresh produce is expensive or hard to get year-round. Frozen vegetables solve that. Same nutrition, a fraction of the waste, and they're available at Walmart, Kroger, Aldi, Costco, anywhere you already shop. You don't need a specialty store for this. The USDA estimates that Americans can meet all their daily fruit and vegetable requirements for under $3 a day using a mix of fresh, frozen, and canned options. Cost is not the barrier most people think it is. Number 4. Frozen bone broth. This is the most underrated item on this entire list. Good bone broth, the kind slow-cooked for a full day or longer, is loaded with collagen, glycine, proline, and easily absorbed minerals: calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, in forms your body can actually use. After about age 20, your collagen production drops roughly 1% per year. By 60, you're producing significantly less than you need for joint comfort, skin integrity, gut lining health, and connective tissue resilience. Bone broth helps close that gap through food rather than supplements. Glycine, one of the amino acids concentrated in bone broth, supports sleep quality and reduces inflammation. For anyone over 60 who struggles with sleep or joint stiffness, a warm cup of bone broth in the evening is one of the simplest interventions I can recommend. Look for broth that gels when cold. That's your sign of high collagen content. Use it as a base for soups, to cook grains, or just drink it warm with a little salt. It's gentle on the digestive system, which matters more as gut resilience naturally decreases with age. Now let me bring this all together, because information without a framework is just noise. Here's the pattern underneath everything I've just told you. After 60, your body needs more nutrients from fewer calories. That's the fundamental challenge. You can't afford to waste meals on foods that deliver calories without delivering what your muscles, your brain, and your immune system actually need. Every meal either moves you toward independence or away from it. Not dramatically, but quietly, consistently, over months and years. The 4 frozen foods on the worst list share 3 things. They're high in calories, they're low in protein, and they create inflammation. That combination is specifically destructive after 60 because it accelerates sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass, at the exact time your body is already fighting to hold on to what it has. The 4 on the good list share 3 things too. They're rich in protein or protective nutrients. They reduce inflammation, and they're just as convenient as the ones they're replacing. Here's your self-check for this week. Open your freezer this weekend and do a simple audit. Count how many items from the worst list you have. Count how many from the good list. Then do this. For 3 days, write down how many grams of protein you eat at each meal. Not the whole day, each meal. You're looking for that 40-gram target. If most of your meals are coming in under 20, that's the gap that's costing you muscle. If you notice persistent fatigue, unexplained weakness, or balance problems that seem to be getting worse, don't brush it off as just getting older. Bring it up with your primary care doctor. Ask for your fasting glucose, your A1C, your albumin, and your inflammatory markers. If you're on Medicare, your annual wellness visit covers this at no cost to you. That single appointment, with these 4 numbers, gives you a clearer picture of where you stand than anything I can tell you in a video. If the numbers come back concerning, schedule a follow-up soon. Don't wait 6 months. If anything feels sudden or severe, real weakness in your legs, a blood sugar reading over 300 milligrams per deciliter, chest tightness, or sudden confusion, don't wait for an appointment. Go to urgent care if it's not life-threatening. Go to the ER if it is. Call 911 if you're alone, or it involves your heart or your ability to think clearly. Don't drive yourself. An ambulance starts treatment on the way, and the ER sees you faster when you arrive by EMS. I know an ER visit is expensive, and I know that's a real reason people wait. But the thing I saw over and over in practice was people who waited, and the damage that got done while they waited cost them far more, in health and in money. Being checked and sent home is a good outcome. That's not wasting anyone's time. But for most people watching this, the situation is not urgent. It's gradual. And that's actually the good news, because gradual means there's time to make small, practical changes that compound over months the way interest compounds in a savings account. If you remember one thing from this video, remember this: your freezer is not the enemy. It can be one of the best tools you have, but after 60, you have to choose differently, because your body is asking for different things now than it asked for at 40, and the foods that felt fine then may be quietly costing you muscle, clarity, and independence now. Here's my prescription. This weekend, open your freezer. Take 1 item from the worst list and don't replace it when it's gone. Add 1 item from the good list to your next grocery run. That's it. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. You just need the next useful step, and now you have it. If someone in your family eats most of their meals from the freezer, send them this video, not to scare them, to give them the same information you have right now. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.